Tashid-elect, this is part of an interview series with candidates running for 2021 TPiE elections. We are focused on creating a platform for new faces from diverse backgrounds in order for our viewers to also engage in the discussions we are about to have. I'm Choekyi Lhamo, and here with us today we have Tundup Siringla, Anat Sedenla, and Tenzin. Anat Sedenla is the secretary at the Community Center Committee and currently works at the University of Vermont Medical Center. Denzel Randall is a finance specialist at SAP, a German software company. He is also a financial advisory board member, FAB, at the city of El Cerrito since 2018. Tundup Siringla is the president at the Regional Tibetan Association of Massachusetts, Amherst, and a student success coordinator at the University of Massachusetts. I welcome you all. Thank you for accepting our request for this interview. First of all, I wanted to ask Tundup Siringla, what are the key issues you want to put forth in the parliament if elected?
Choekyi, thank you for the opportunity. I want to pay my respect to His Holiness and greetings to all fellow Tibetans. And the reason why I'm standing for the 17th North America TPiE, it's really because I see an urgency and a need to address the Tibetan issue, and specifically the need to revive the stalled Tibet-China dialogue. I also believe that the situation in Tibet is getting really critical. His Holiness is 86 years of age, and I feel that the next 5-10 years is really going to be critical for freedom movement, and that's why I feel that there is an urgency, and we really need to focus on the prime reason why we are in exile, why we are refugees, and that's really addressing the Tibetan freedom cause. My three goals is really one, strengthening the Tibetan identity, and within that, preservation of Tibetan culture and language. I make the argument that it's not enough for us to say that Tibetan language and culture is critical. If we say that and we truly believe that, we have to make sure that we provide the adequate resources so that the Tibetan schools, and especially in North America and in Canada, the weekend Tibetan schools can survive and flourish. I know there are many other issues that needs, but fundamentally, for these schools to survive, we have to provide the resources so that these schools become sustainable. I also believe the unity of our community is critical. It's a must. If we are to accomplish our goal of Tibet, of bringing His Holiness back to Tibet, it's essential that we must have unity in our community. Without unity, we are not going to be successful. My second argument or the goal is to strengthen Tibetan advocacy. Our cause is just, our cause is based on truth, our cause is based on nonviolence, which means if something were to happen for example, to revive the Tibet-China dialogue, there needs to be international pressure. And for pressure to happen, we need to work on advocacy. So likewise, my third goal is the active Tibet. I've been concerned over the years to see that less and less Tibetans are engaging in activism for Tibet. You look at the 10th March National Uprising Day gathering in front of the United Nations building or in front of the Chinese consulate in New York. It's each year fewer and fewer people are gathering, and that's really very unfortunate. We as a Tibetan, our cause is one, our enemy is one, and so therefore we need to all get together and really participate and get involved in activism for Tibet, because through activism, you generate awareness, and through you generate advocacy and support. And so through these three things, I'm hoping to put pressure on China, led by the United States government, as everyone knows, the current situation in terms of international politics have greatly changed. Just a couple of years ago, people looked up to China and were afraid to speak up against China. That has changed. Today, more and more countries are willing to stand up against China and hold China accountable. Likewise, even in India, the government of India and the people of India are seriously taking a relook at their policy and their stand against China. So I think the time is right, and I feel like we need people who have the expertise, experience, and skill, and activism and advocacy in order for us to bring the Chinese government to a negotiating table to address the Tibetan conflict.
Sure, thank you so much. Next, similarly, my question goes to Anat Sedenla. Can you talk about the key issues you want to put forth in the parliament if elected?
First of all, I'm very glad and honored to be on TPiE Media. And then today is the Human Rights Day and also the 31st conferment of His Holiness, the conferment of the Nobel Peace Prize for His Holiness the Dalai Lama. So on this day, I would like to pay my humble respects and prostrations to our Supreme Leader, His Holiness the Great 14th Dalai Lama, and also my fellow Tibetans, brothers and sisters in Tibet who is suffering under the invasion and the oppression under the Chinese Communist government. My best wishes to them and also my fellow Tibetans here in the free world. So I wish all of them a very happy Nobel Peace Prize Day and Human Rights Day. So I have many, many issues in our society that I have been, whether I will be a member of parliament or not, I have been raising in social media as well as meeting with our CTA leaders. If I get elected, some of the key issues out of many, the first would be the recent we had a third special meeting in Dharamsala where more than 20 countries participated, and there were like 350 delegates. We had a unanimous decision made, a resolution passed that His Holiness the Great 15th Dalai Lama's reincarnation will only be selected, recognized, identified by the current 14th Dalai Lama and his institution, which we call as Labrang, I think. So that needs to be in the charter of the Tibetan Parliament in Exile, in the charter of the Central Tibetan Administration. It is very important. And it can go under the first Liu Tangbo, ki Tenzin Tangbo, under that article, we can add that part of the resolution. And there are like 4 resolutions passed, and I think the number 3 is the most important. So that's the number 1. The second is we need to raise our North American TPiE seats. Not only, but I'm focusing on North America since I'm being the delegate or the representative of North and South America, but also in Europe and Australia, we need to increase our TPiE seats. So in regards to North America, we need 5 TPiE seats, and I'll bring that matter in the parliament. Not only that, the parliament secretariat of the Tibetan Parliament in Exile, one staff, I would like to propose to the Tibetan Parliament Exile that a staff be appointed at the Washington, D.C. in the Office of Tibet with the negotiations, with the agreement with the Kashak. So, and that's the second one. And the third one is our green book. In that, excuse me, do I have enough minutes to speak?
Yes, go on.
Then other thing is our green book contribution, our age limit is up to 84 or 85. That needs to be reduced down to 80. And under the rules and regulations, under the charter, it says that above 70, you can give all the contribution in one lump sum up to 85 years old, which I see somewhat conflict with the moral principles. So I would like to bring that down to 80 years old. And also the age of the Kalun. The Kaluns right now it's 35. So that needs to reduce down to 30. We have youngsters who are educated, who are capable and ready to take the responsibilities. And then also other issue is we had like 2 speakers for 5 years, right? So each speaker had like 2.5 years. That is not the right way to do it. The speakers must have the right and responsibility of going through the 5 years term, 2.5 years. This is something we need to amend in our charter and or all the rules. And the other one, is if you miss 2 consecutive meetings in the parliament session, you are automatically what do you call it, out of the member of parliament, which our member of parliament, the members of the parliament doesn't exist only in one area like India. It's spread all over. So depending on the situations around the world, like America, Canada, for example, the coronavirus right now is happening. There are strict restrictions and regulations. So we need to change according to that. According to the time and the nations and the situation, we need to change that rule, which says if you miss 2 meetings in series, then you are out of the member. So that one, and then also the Green Book contribution of the North Americans, we need to use it here in the United States to build our community centers, to build our schools, to have stronger political what do you call it, activities here in the North America or Europe or Australia. And the last one is I would like to propose a Memorial Day, an official Memorial Day and a Mother's Day. I have many reasons behind it for all the key issues I have said. Since we don't have time, I would like to just point out the key points. Official Memorial Day and official Mother's Day. And the final is we need to have a strategy movement, whether it is Lam or Rangzin. Rangzin is out of the question right now, according to the Tibetan Parliament. Exile, we go with the middle way approach. So how do we achieve the middle way approach? We need the strategies. Instead of having, oh, this is middle way approach, we want that. How do we get that? We need how. Like, how do we achieve those issues? I'd like to bring in the Tibetan Parliament in Exile. Thank you.
Thank you, Anat Sedenla. Shed a light on what do you think are the key issues you want to put forth in the Parliament?
Okay, Tashi Delek, and thank you so much for the opportunity to the Parliament media. I think this is the first Tibetan media that has given opportunity to the aspirant CITI candidates before the primary election. So I do really appreciate that. And second of all, like Anat Sedenla and Tundup shared their gratitude, I would like also to share my gratitude to His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama. Whatever I am today, it's all because of the His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama. So on this auspicious day of Nobel Peace Prize Day, I would like to say thank you to His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama for whatever you have done for the Tibetans and Tibetan cause, and most importantly for the global peace. And I would also like to stand in solidarity with the voiceless people around the world on this human rights day, because there are a lot of atrocities going around in the globe, where it is time for us to stand in solidarity with them. So with that, my parents, as like any Tibetans, always advise us to work hard and be truthful, and if possible, with advice in mind, I've always done my best to take my responsibility, my moral responsibility as a Tibetan, to serve the community from very little age that I could remember. So without going through the past records, I just wanted to focus on directly on the question. So in the parliament, I have to be really cognizant of the fact that whatever proposal or the resolution that I might put forward has to be kind of discussed and has to be agreed by other members as well. So it's not something that, so it has to be really cognizant of that. So I have to, it's really dependent on the others' kind of point of view. But one of the things that Anat Sedenla has shared is really crucial because the demographics of the Tibetan population or the Tibetan diaspora is changing dramatically every year. If you look at the report recently published by the SART from the Central Tibetan Administration, there are over 36,000 Tibetans in North America alone, 1,000 in Europe itself. So we have to really have a serious discussion about the parliament seat allocation around the globe. So I agree with the Anat Sedenla about the increase of the North America seat for the TPiE, and there must be one or two seat for the Canada alone as well, because the number of population in Canada is quite huge as well. So this is one of the things. Another thing is about the unity, and I think the unity can be brought through the civic education that we can put forth in the schools and around the community, because right now it's not only the community but America, which is one of the most developed country and it's a superpower in the globe. There is also a heated discussion about the need of civic education, because in the recent survey, 1 out of 4 people in the country doesn't know the 3 branches of the country, of the government. So that really kind of like speaks the need of the civic education. And I think if we could introduce that into our school's education or curriculum, and that would actually really create an environment where we could have constructive discussions and be able to be open, inclusive, and to have a kind of like sense the feelings, closeness feelings towards the government, and also through that civic education, we can also increase the number of people who access education, and we can avoid that kind of like disunity and disfranchise that is happening around the community in the recent years. That's one of the things. And also in line with that same topic, I think it's really important to have a Constitution Day. In our case, it is we can talk about the Charter Day, because around the world there is a day where governments actually celebrate or recognize or the Constitution Day, where they actually discuss about the Constitution or speak about the Constitution in their officials, governments, and also the schools and the civic authority, the organizations. So that's really important, because I don't think there are many Tibetans who actually read this Tibetan Charter in full and understand the Tibetan Charter in full. Understand the Charter in full, then we could have a constructive discussion. So I think that's really important. And also another thing is to there's a provision where if you actually be calling for 2 consecutive terms, then you cannot run for the Sikkim, right? So that really needs to be kind of like changed, because in America, there are a lot of secretaries who have kind of like served for various administrations, but they can also run no matter what. It's really something that we need to kind of think about, and also the need for the inculcation of the rich or the soft power that we have, because we don't have economic power, we don't have military power for our Tibetans. We have a soft power, and that's the richness of the Tibetan culture and language. And given the demographic changes and given the number of Tibetan youths that are growing around the globe, especially in the West, really important that we inculcate the sense of belonging, a sense of compassion, sense of peace, right? Within our youth's mind. Otherwise, in the West, there's so much focus on I. You know, if we continue that, then there's going to be a deep divide between the elders and the younger generation. So, and we already have a rich kind of like resources like C learning. We could introduce that within the Tibetan schools as well as Tibetan language schools around the West. So those are the
Right.
things I would like to focus on, given the time that I have. Right.
I just want to add, also express my support for increasing the number of North American TPiE seats, and also the call for really in-depth research into issues regarding Green Book and really finding a solution that works for Tibetans in America. I strongly believe that the Tibetans in North America have very strong love and passion for their country and wants to contribute towards the Green Book. But I think the process itself and the management of that process, I think, needs to be revisited. But the last thing I would add to this is, for me, we cannot afford to be doing business as usual and get ourselves engrossed with the usual administrative and bureaucratic work. Not to say they are not important, but I think my hope is that this new Sejong and the new TPiE term will really take the Tibetan cause up and spend, I hope, probably 60-70% of their time on promoting the Tibetan cause, finding ways to pressure the Chinese government to come to the negotiating table. That's where our effort, our time needs to be focused. Otherwise, if we continue doing as if things business as usual, China is not going to come to the negotiating table, pick their own time, and I honestly don't believe that they're interested in having a negotiation, because if they are seriously interested, they would have never put the precondition that His Holiness had to accept that Tibet is part of China, when His Holiness has made very clear that historically Tibet is an independent nation and no one can change history. So my hope is that the new administration and the new TPiE will really focus and come up with more projects and ideas in terms of promoting the Tibetan cause, so that we get closer to our goal. Thank you.
Thank you, Tundup. My next round of questions, you all touched upon that this matter. Just to elaborate, I'm requesting you all to elaborate more on that. I'll go with Anat Sedenla this time. So many feel that the Tibetan Parliament in exile needs fundamental changes and restructuring to move ahead with changing circumstances. You've spoken on the increase of seats from the North America constituent. Some of the other changes needed, or from the North America's perspective. Would you like to elaborate on the increase of seats on the North America constituency? Anala?
Sure. I'm saying that we need to, can you hear me?
Yes.
The reason why I would like to increase the North America seats not to 3 or 4, but to 5 is because the importance of the nation we are living in not because of the population movement from India to the United States. If we have a discussion on the population movement, then we have to have another debate on the decrease in the population in India and then decrease in the Chitu seats. That I don't agree with decreasing the Chitu seats. I'm always in agreement with the increase in Chitu seats. We need more hands, as His Holiness the Dalai Lama says. So the reason why I'm trying to increase is the United States is very important political matter for the Tibetans, Canada, and then South America. In South America, like 13 nations, Chitus, member of parliament, have to reach all of them, not just Tibetans. We have about 36 to 40,000 Tibetans. Our responsibility as a North America Chitu is not just to take care of our folks. The other reason is we need to reach out to these governments, these nations and their leaders, and bring, as Rangdula said, the voiceless of the Tibetans have voice in Tibet, but they are suppressed by the Chinese government. That's why we call it voiceless. Even though there's voice, we couldn't hear in the free world. So we are the ambassadors, the people who bring their voice, and it's not we're not just to bring the voice in among ourselves, among the Tibetans, but our main issue is we need to get the support, the political support, the economic support, the moral support from United States, from Canada, and also now if we have 5 Chitu seats, we can reach down to South America, all those other nations. We have an Office of Tibet in Brazil. We can contact with them and get their guidance and support and reach out to other nations in South America. And that's how we can start a movement. That's how we can get more support for the Tibetan cause. And that's the reason why I would like to increase Chitu seats to 5 in my 5-year term as the North America Chitu. And also, if I have time, I would like to say, in our society, there's a debate, discussion that we need to reduce the Chokasum, the Chitus from the region seat, and also from the religion section, and then increase the North America. That part I agree. I would like to increase, but also keep as it is in India. And then the Tibetan Parliament in Exile, the members of the parliament needs to do more. We need to have more, as Tundula said, we need more action, more projects, more programs. So if we have more projects, plans of actions, then there will be less discussion of, pointing faults in the parliament during the parliament session, as we see these days. If we have more movement and actions for the Tibetan cause, then there will be no time for other less important discussions in the sessions that are happening in India. So, and then also the Tibetan members of the parliament need to reach out to our folks, Tibetans. They shouldn't be staying, warming up the seats for 5 years. We need to reach out in social media, Facebook, WhatsApp, Telegram. The member of parliament needs to speak out because they are the Chitus. They represent.
Sure. Thundubla, I saw you nodding when I asked you all the question. Can you elaborate on the need of fundamental changes and restructuring in the Tibetan Parliament in Exile to move ahead with changing circumstances? And what are your thoughts on the perspective of being a North American Chitu candidate? Thundula, can you please unmute?
Okay. I strongly believe in the call and need for increasing the number of seats for North American Chitu, because it is supposed to be a reflection of the public, of the community. And when you have about 30 or 35% of a community in a specific region, and you have only 2 representatives, that I think it's not adequate. I don't think that's fair. So that's one. But I think my bigger reason for calling for increase in the number of seats for Chitu, especially for North America, is North American Chitus are uniquely placed, unlike Chitu members, and have the responsibility to sort of really build a deeper, more extensive support base in the US Congress, and that begins in local regional areas. I think if we, the United States government, to take a strong position and a much stronger position and provide more funding to the Central Tibetan Administration, it is going to be the members of the US Congress who will make that request and debate and vote on that.
Mm-hmm.
These members of the representatives of the US Congress, Washington, Capitol Hill, comes from local regions. And I think the increased number of North American Chitus, I think would be far better placed to reach out to the 36 Tibetan associations, about 25 Tibet support groups, and hundreds of Tibetan Buddhist centers to sort of build connections. If they don't have a connection with their local elected representatives, I think the Chitu could play a significant role in building that relationship, and 2, strengthening that relationship with those that we all have, with the goal of really trying to increase a strong support base from both the parties, Republicans and Democrats, in the US Congress. And that, I think, then really places us in a very good position, a position of strength to accomplish pressure China to come to the negotiating table. I also believe that it is really critical for North American Chitus and the Tibetan Association to empower the young, the youths of Tibet who are in this country by involving them and engaging them in local Tibetan Association activities.
Rondula, the same question goes to you. What are your thoughts on this matter, and do you think there are any other changes that are needed in the Tibetan Parliament in exile?
I really have to kind of agree with whatever Anala and Tundup has said about the increase in the structure itself, but I might kind of slightly disagree with Anala on the decreasing the numbers and I mean, in terms of his disagreement with the decreasing the number of the Chitus from the 2 regions and the 5 Tibetan Buddhist sects. if you really want to keep the same number of the Tibetan Parliament as it is, with like 45 members, then obviously if you want to increase the number of the G2 representation from North America, Europe, and the Europe, Asia, Australia, Asia, then obviously kind of think about decreasing the number of the two regions and also it's mainly because of the demographic, right? Because and also the fact that North America and Europe and Australasia are really key important players in global geopolitics, especially with the United States, right, being the superpower. And there's a heated discussion about America's decline in terms of its kind of extent of their might in terms of the economy as well as the global reach because of the China's rise, right? So it's really important that we have a strong representation in the North America where we could actually, as Tundup said, we could lobby the House of in terms of costs, right? And more importantly, in terms of the North America, in terms of the Chitu, Tibetan Parliament in Exile itself, one of the main responsibilities of the Central Tibetan administrations, as it is enshrined in our Tibetan Charter, is to work towards a Tibetan freedom struggle based on the path that is passed by the Tibetan Parliament in Exile. So we really must kind of we must be proactive in terms of reaching out, not only in our own kind of comfortable space where we could reach the support, but we have to move beyond. And one of the ways is through alliances with those groups and institutions who share the same interests and has a common interest, like Hong Kong, Uyghur, and also in terms of the environment where there is a global environmental disruptions. So there are ways that we could also work together. And also from the Chitu's perspective, we really have to mobilize and increase the Tibet support groups, because there's been a decline in the movement or in terms of the Tibetan support groups. So that's one of the things that Chitu must actually focus, right? And as a Chitu, I think before we talk about the Tibetan the composition, Chitu's composition, I think even if we increase the Chitu's composition, I mean, I'm not talking about the North America. Obviously, this is a must for the global, for the Tibetan diasporas. But in terms of the current composition itself, the debates and the discussions are happening in our community because of what is happening inside the four corners of the Tibetan Parliament in Exile. Right? We look at now these days the Tibetan Parliament sessions are going live and all this, and people can watch it. What they're talking, right? When they talk about Tibetan unity in the same vein, right? They actually kind of like talk against what they're saying. So it's just kind of like becomes hypocritical of whatever they're trying to emphasize on. So it's really important as an electorate to actually vote for the right person for the right seat. Then there would be a lot of discussion about the disunity and all these things. So that's really important, I guess. Yeah.
Anybody wants to say anything in response to what Randall said? Okay. So Tundup, please, can you please mute your? Yeah. Thank you. Yes. So Randall, this my third round of questions will start with you first. There's a growing view among the Tibetan constituents, especially the youth, that lawmakers need credibility with regards to the work they do as an MP, both in the House as well as outside the Parliament, and that many serving lawmakers fall short of that assessment. Do you feel the same?
Oh, I absolutely agree with that because if we have credibility, then it actually bring a credible representation in the Parliament for their own constituents, right? We don't. We always, when we talk about democracy and all these things, we always look at the United States, right? If you look at the United States Congress, the Senates and the U.S. Congress, they have a strong background, being in terms of business, law, their education qualifications, and all these things. So, and when they talk in terms of particular resolutions or a particular topic in the U.S. Congress, they can make a constructive discussions. Otherwise, it will be always confined within their own self-interest, own, like, they cannot rise above the regionalism. That's happening right now in our community, right? So if we have Chitus who have a strong background and democracy is all about in pluralism, inclusiveness, cooperation, and willing to actually listen to other point of views, right? And if we have a Chitu candidates or Chitus who have a strong education, their own experience background, then the environment within the Tibetan Parliament Exile would be absolutely different, and we could actually talk more about the substantive topics such as Tibetan freedom struggle. How can we bring towards Tibetan resolution, resolution towards the Tibetan cause, rather than kind of like talking about the self grievances and all these things within the Tibetan community. So I really agree with that. So and that way we could have a strong image or positive image among the Tibetan people towards the Tibetan Parliament Exile and Central Tibetan administration itself. So
Thank you, Rahula. I'll go. Anat Sedenla, what do you think about this view that lawmakers need credibility outside the House as well as inside the House? What are your thoughts on this?
I absolutely agree with what you said about our people, our constituents. And as a common man, as a common people, I'm one among those constituents who, has been worried about what the Tibetan members of parliament doing. For example, in my region, the current North America Treaty, or for 20 years, I have not seen one current North America Chitu visit our place. So that's one of the reasons. And also our connection with the people, human to human connection, is getting far away, and the connection with the internet is getting closer. That is why, as a common man, as an observer in the society, as a social service worker, I'm rising as a North America Chitu to set an example to the world, to set an example to the constituents that we as a member of parliament can do much better and can reach much farther away. For example, when I become Chitu, I will reach out to the 35 North America Tibetan associations. I'm not saying I will try, I'm saying I will reach. So when I say I will reach to the 35 Tibetan associations, meet them face to face, and get our connection with the CTA and the people closer, and bridge them closer. That's the one reason. And the other reason, as a member of parliament, I would like to raise funds in the United States and in Canada for political reasons. For example, in my agenda, I have $1 wherever Canada's $1 or United States $1 to raise donations. And with that donations, we need to meet the requirements, the tasks set by the Tibetan Parliament in Exile to reach out to the governments, to organizations, to leaders, and to visit with our Tibetan brothers and sisters in North America or in South America. So that's the other reason. And then the third reason is now the gap between the Rangzin organizations and the Ume Lam advocates is getting farther and farther away. and like people are so what do you call it? Have a very not very very they have very you know they're worried if there's a Rangzin advocating a voice for Tibet, whether it be it independent or whether be it for human rights, whether be it for religion, freedom of religion, or whether be it for environment, the Umelam advocates are worried and they don't participate. And the same thing goes with the Rangzin advocates. When Umelam advocates start a protest or a program or a lobby, then the Rangzin advocates look the same way as Umelam does. So that's why we need to have a broader mind. We need to unite with our differences together. And then I would like to be that member of parliament who bridges the gap between the Rangzin advocates and the Umelam advocates. We shouldn't be having as a member of parliament, not America, we are not a member of parliament just for one group, for Rangzin. In our society, we have Rangzin advocates, we have Umelam advocates. We as a TPiE, as a member of parliament, we represent both. But we very well know that Central Tibetan administration's policy is middle way approach, and we have to go according to that. But as a member of parliament, as a TPiE representing the whole of the North America and South America people, where there are different voices and different policies or different movements, we have to bring them together and fight against our common enemy, Chinese Communist Party. Thank you.
Sure, thank you. Tundubla, what are your thoughts on the discussion that we just, the two candidates have put forth, and what are your views on this?
Well, I think credibility for any leadership is a must. And I think credibility is tied to trust. It's tied to the fact that whether that person actually walks the talk or actually says something and does something different. And you don't want to have elected representatives who are not credible, okay? And so I think the onus and the responsibility of choosing credible leadership, credible members, really lies on the public. It's critical that public do not vote for someone just because they are an extension of their own family or come from the same school or come from the same settlement or neighborhood or the region or same ideology. They really, from the very beginning, want to pick someone who is honest, who's truthful, who can be trusted, and who is also not afraid to say, sorry, I made a mistake. You know, I think that's also a very piece about the credibility of a leader, because we are all human beings, and sometimes when we make mistakes, it will not be with intention, but sometimes when we make a mistake, I think a leader must be able to own to that and apologize and say sorry, and then be able to move on. You know, I think the question about, again, the credibility is also tied with trust and also has a huge impact on the unity of our community. In this election cycle, almost all the Sikyong and TPiE candidates have the need and the urgency for unity in our community, and I absolutely agree with it. But again, there is no magic bullet that is going to bring unity together. You can come together from the leadership by them being honest, truthful, walking the talk, gaining the trust of the community, and then for the to sort of really take on that responsibility of being an educated citizen. And by that, what I mean is you make decisions in support or disagree based on the substance, not who is saying it, from whom it's coming from. Because if you do that, then you're really not using logic and rational. You're just, again, supporting someone because you like them or know them. And so I think the public also has a huge responsibility in terms of fostering and bringing about an environment of unity. But I would put that onus and more of that responsibility on the leadership, because I think part of the situation that we find ourselves today is because our leadership would say something and do something differently. And sometimes when our leaders feel like something that is being done inappropriately, but if they feel that it is in their best interest, they tend to look the other way. That, I think, does not bring or encourage credibility. A leader has to be honest, upfront, and sometimes if I have to take a bullet to well-being and the safety of our cause, I should be willing to do that, not put my chair and my position above the Tibetan cause.
Thank you, Thundubla. So my last round of questions, it seems like all three of you have already preempted this. Yeah, Randall.
No, I just want just to
Sure.
just want to add one thing. We always talk about the unity, right? And that's really important. But all this comes down to the civic education, I think, and we have to be open in terms of listening to other point of view, and also the fact that as a leader we cannot appease everyone. We cannot please everyone. That's a democracy, and we as a public, when we say we are we actually make allegiance to or we are in full support of the Central Tibetan administration or whoever the Sikong is, right? It doesn't mean that if your Sikong is selected or your choice of Sikong is selected, then we agree with the Central Tibetan administration. We have to move away from that, and we have to move away from those kind of like mindset where this is my supporter, so I support this. This is not my supporter, so I say this, just for the sake of their own self-interest. So we have to move away from that, and that way we could create a credible kind of like and more trusted Tibetan Parliament in exile, and obviously harmonious society. So that's what I think. Thank you.
Right. Just as I was saying, that it seems like you all have preempted my last question. It is my last round of questions before we wrap up the interview. It's about the Exile Tibetan community's unity that has been affected by infighting, particularly along the lines of political stands, regionalism, and other divisive lines, which is, as we all agree, is clearly a problem. Let's go with you, Ramdullah. What do you think, if elected, how will you address those issues?
Yeah, so first we have to always think of ourselves and put Tibet as our priority, not your regional, where you come from, what Buddhist sects you actually practice. It's not that important. That comes secondary, or it's not really important, right? As a Tibetan, we must be proud of being a Tibetan. That would resolve everything. If you have that sense, then there is no question about being kind of like disagreeable or not having a kind of like having some sort of like not dislike towards the other people. So that sense is really important. And even if like democracy, as I said, it's all about pluralism, right? And all about different views. We cannot please everyone. So we must be able to learn to accept other points of view and then have a constructive discussions, right? And also in a democracy, the fact that when the majority actually decides on something, even if you have a different point of view, we must respect that. We must respect the decision that is made by the through the democratic. So they actually have a same novel cause.
Tundup, what is your take on this?
So I think, folks have already heard me say this, that unity is really the lifeline, the accomplishment of our cause. Unity is a must. And we can accomplish unity if we put one's ideology, preferences, all those isms behind the Tibetan cause and being able to work with each other. Disagreement does not mean disunity. We can always have disagreements, but still be united. United that we want freedom in Tibet. United we want holiness to Tibet. United that we want the oppression and atrocities in Tibet. So as a leader, as a TPiE member, you lead by example. And by that, what I mean is, regardless of my own personal views or ideology or affiliation, I have to be able to work with everyone. I have to respect everyone's perspective and support and help them to be successful. And I think, I've been known to do that. I've worked as a Rangzin advocate. I have served as the president of the Tibetan Association, where our primary objective is to really follow, abide by the Central Tibetan Administration's policy, and so about unity, a leader must be willing to one's ideology and preferences aside and work for the Tibetan cause. I think a leader's word is going to be important. Leader's action is critical. When a leader's or a TPiE's words actually align with their action, people are going to trust and believe in you. And then when you call for unity, there are likely to listen and try to bring about unity. I think it's important, as I mentioned, putting aside your ideology, whenever someone is organizing an event for Tibet, whether it's a bike rally, whether it's a Laga event, whether it is a protest inside the Chinese consulate, no matter who is organizing it, unfortunately, what's seen is people look at the faces of people who are organizing this and then make a decision whether to be involved and participate or not. I think that's wrong. That does not promote unity. The event that is being done is for Tibetan cause. And so as a Tibetan, no matter whatever your ideology is, you have the responsibility of going and supporting and making that event successful. If you cannot personally go and participate, make that event successful, at least you encourage and you share a word of gratitude to the people organizing this and doing this for our cause. I think from a leadership perspective, what I say, what I do, and the policies that I envision, the process that we outline, all those needs to be inclusive and should include everyone, and it should not be exclusive in terms of somebody else cannot participate in this. That I think is really detrimental to our unity. And the last thing I would say about the unity is the public has a huge responsibility. Yes, education is important, but public need to understand that unity is critical for success. It is critical for the long life health of His Holiness. It's critical to give hope for Tibetans inside Tibet. And so, as a public, you have the responsibility of making sure when somebody says something, not to just take it at the face value, but to question them. Okay, what is your basis? What is your what is your evidence, and then drawing your own conclusion, and not blindly sharing everything on social network just because you like the language or you like from whom it's coming from. And I think so both, if both the leadership takes on their responsibilities and make a concrete, deliberate effort, and publics also join that responsibility, I think unity can be revived and strengthened again. Thank you.
Thank you. Anat Sedenla, you already commented on the discord between the Umilam and Ramsin supporters. What are your thoughts on the discussion that we just had? And can you elaborate on what you said before?
Well, I would like to talk about the unity part first. As
Sure.
a North America member of parliament, we have to be honest. We must have moral values, and we must be fair and balanced and clear about our plans of actions. And also, we must have a lot of, in our plan of action, we must have a lot of movements or projects or anything that is against our enemy, the Chinese government. So if we have those plan of actions, then we as a member of parliament will have no time in small quarrels, and we can unite, we can set an example, a model. Now inside our society, in our society, we have issues about unity. We talk about unity issues and stuff. So what I see, we have unity, that's for sure, but some small part of our society, our people, we have some disunity. And that, I think it is because lack of knowledge, lack of moral values, and lack of actions to fight against our enemy, to support the Tibetan people and Tibet. So the solution is opposite of that. What is lacking, we must provide them as a member of parliament, and also as a human being, we need to raise our people. So as a member of parliament, my personal basic principle and motto is that with integrity, with liberty, and with unity, we will lift, we will rise, and we will return. So if we see somebody, a Tibetan people, a brother and sister falling, we will lift them up. Falling as I mean in education, falling as I mean in a movement, falling as I mean in unity. We will lift them up, we will rise them, and then we will return. When I say return, the best thing I pray is to return to Tibet. If that doesn't happen, at least we can return back to the identity that we are losing in this free world and also in Tibet by the Chinese, the oppression and the mean schemes of the Chinese Communist Party. And by return, I mean our Tibetan brothers and sisters, we return back to the education, the knowledge, the movement we are losing. We need to strengthen our movement. We need to return back to a stronger movement. So that is what I feel, I act, and as a member of parliament in future, if I become, I'll act according to what I said.
Sorry. Thank you so much, all of you. We wish you a successful campaign ahead and thank you for participating in the discussion.
Yeah, thank you so much.